Joining us now, the aforementioned Derek Thompson. He is a staff writer for The Atlantic and also host of Plain English podcast. Great to see you, Derek.
Good to see you, man.
Great to see you guys, too.
Yeah, of course. So we've been tracking a little bit of what is going on with the airlines. Huge amount of canceled flights. You had Pete Buttigieg, who, of course, the Secretary of Transportation, had some meeting with airline executives and was like, you guys better do better, but didn't seem to really actually do anything about the problem. Can you just talk to us about what is going on, why there are so many canceled flights, and what the government could potentially do about it?
Sure, great. Yeah, I'll do a quick thesis statement, and then we can get into the details.
Yes.
Basically, flying is really messed up right now. It's messed up because there are cascading cancellations. It's messed up because there are more delays. It's messed up because security lines are out of control. I mean, there are airports now where security lines are stretching into 1, 2, 3 hours. I mean, good luck making your flight if the security line is 2 or 3 hours. So why is this happening? It's happening, honestly, for the same reason that so many other things in this economy for the last year haven't worked. It's the same story over and over again. You had a demand crash in 2020. As a result, a lot of different industries pulled back their supply. So in the airlines, for example, they decommissioned a lot of planes, they parked a lot of planes, they fired, laid off, offered early retirements to a lot of pilots and ground crew. And then all of a sudden, demand surged way faster than they thought it would. They thought they might be in a recessionary climate for flying for like 5, 6 years, 10 years. Instead, demand came surging back within 1 or 2 years. As a result, they don't have the capacity to meet the level of demand that we have. Leisure travel right now is setting a record. That's like ordinary sort of budget travelers who aren't sitting in first class, and people who aren't flying to Paris or Hong Kong or whatever. Domestic leisure travel is at an all-time high, and the capacity to fulfill it is not very high at all, which means when anything happens, when there's a storm, when there's a cancellation because some people got sick, there aren't reserve pilots you can call. There aren't reserve grounds crew you can call. There aren't reserve planes that you can move into JFK and fly people out to Miami. And as a result, cancellations cascade, and you have all the problems you have today.
Right. And so, Derek, one of the things that we had pointed to in the past is about how airlines will book flights that they not necessarily have the capacity in order to fulfill. Are they doing this knowingly? And is there any way in order to either get them to stop? Is there a way that we could kind of fix this problem from what you've identified?
Yeah, so the complication is multifold as I understand it. Number one, a lot of these schedules are set 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So it's really, really hard to turn that rudder, right? Number two, the airlines are, especially the airlines that have a lot of cancellations right now, which weirdly enough, by my research, isn't Frontier or Spirit. It's Delta and JetBlue and American. It's a lot of the major carriers. And
Right.
why are they having the cancellations? Because they didn't cut back their summer schedules. They were like, we're going to try to meet all the demand that we possibly can. But as a result, there's no one understudying these flights. There's nothing in reserve if these flights are canceled because they don't have enough pilots or planes or grounds crew if some people get sick. So they're trying to meet demand. They're trying to schedule as many flights as possible. But whenever anything happens, you have these cancellations that are cascading. That's one problem, as I understand it. Another problem, I think, is, to the extent that we want to be really critical of these airlines, if you recall in 2020, we gave them a $54 billion bailout. We were like, here's $50 billion so that you won't do all of this, so that you won't fire all of these or offer early retirements to all of these pilots and grounds crew. But they did pull back. Delta, I believe, laid off 30% of their workforce. I think other major carriers did the same. And if you lay off 30% of your workforce and then you try to hire back during a quote unquote great resignation where labor markets are really tight and quits are really high, you're not going to be able to do it. So what are we seeing right now? We are seeing that we are all sort of like living in the bed that the airlines made for us, right?
Yep.
I saw some numbers too. There was a great American Prospect article breaking this down that actually, said there really isn't a pilot shortage. There's actually a lot of pilots in the marketplace who are available. But yeah, since you laid off or pushed out a lot of your workforce, of course, it takes time to bring people back in. So are they undergoing concerted efforts to sort of staff up to deal with this problem? And, are there things that the government can do to basically force them? Because, it really is fraudulent to put forward the schedule to the public consumer that you basically know there's no chance you're really going to be able to fulfill.
It's kind of like, let me answer the second question first, and then I'll answer the first question. So when you're traveling, Sometimes you'll go to, let's say, Los Angeles, and you'll say, okay, in the morning, we're going to eat at this restaurant in the Valley, and then we're going to meet up with a friend in Venice at 11 a.m., and then at 1, we're going to go to see a museum, and then at 3:30, we're going to do this, and at 5 o'clock, we're going to do that, and you put together this schedule, and you're like, if everything goes right, we'll be able to do this. But if one thing goes wrong, your day is destroyed, right? Yeah. That's what the airlines have done. That's what the Americans and Deltas and JetBlues have clearly done, because they're canceling. Last weekend, they canceled 10% of their flights on Thursday and Friday. We're canceling. Good luck if you're flying those carriers. So they've put together this schedule. It's not necessarily unrealistic. Well, it's not impossible to accomplish this with 1% normal cancellation rate. But if there's weather, and hello, it's June, there's going to be weather. If anything goes wrong, the cancellations cascade. That's the situation that we're in. So I don't know that I would use the word fraudulent, but we're on the same page that they're putting together an unrealistic schedule to meet consumer demands. And as a result, the failures of these companies are being outsourced to us, the flyers, the consumers. On the pilot issue, I really did hear from all the people that I talked to that there is a pilot shortage. And one reason that we know that there's a pilot shortage is that pilots aren't being hired from the labor market pool. A lot of the major carriers are hiring their next marginal pilot from the regional carriers, right? So now that means the regional carriers don't necessarily have enough pilots, and they're having a lot of cancellation problems as well. So from everything that I've heard, and I might not have the full story here, the pilot shortage is real, and it's caused by the fact that we offered early retirement to a lot of very, very accomplished flyers who now at the age of 60, 63 aren't coming back to the market because they're like, I got early retirement. And it's hard to staff up pilots because there's a 1,500-hour regulatory requirement for practicing for pilot training. That's the word, training, not practicing. And it's really hard to sort of accelerate 1,500 hours. You literally can't fast forward through time. So we are in a bit of a shortage at the moment.
And so if we talk about, in the context that what you opened with is the nothing works syndrome, I mean, just expand on that a little bit more, which is the effect that all of this has had on our economy and what it reveals about kind of the underlying infrastructure around it and what we need to do.
Yeah, well, I said that we're in a sort of nothing works syndrome situation with the economy right now because you look at the oil markets where prices are rising, but oil companies don't want to necessarily drill or explore more. You look at the baby formula shortage where there's lots of baby formula in Europe, but we have rules that say that we can't necessarily import it. And we have this flying crisis right now. It just does seem like from industry to industry to industry, things aren't working the way they should. They're breaking down. Now, the reason they're breaking down, I think, is really, really interesting because if you diagnose it accurately, then you can possibly point to the problem, to the solution. They're breaking down in almost every respect because demand is outpacing supply. So what we need right now isn't just policies that are, on the welfare standpoint, redistributing income. Of course, we should do that. Of course, we should raise the floor of income in this country, and we always should. But what we need right now to solve these acute problems are supply side responses. So I'm trying to think through, and I have this sort of thesis that I've been working at the Atlantic called the abundance agenda, trying to think through supply side solutions to these acute problems. How do you increase capacity in airlines? How do you increase capacity in baby formula? How do you increase capacity in energy? Because if you can do these, if you can accomplish these things, you can solve some of these problems. But it really does, I think, call for us to focus on supply-side solutions. Not the old-fashioned Reaganite supply-side conservatism, but something more like a supply-side liberalism.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And, one that is impacting a lot of people as they try for the first time to take their kids or where their family on vacation again and are just being met with absolute nightmares at the airport. So it matters to a lot of people out there. Derek, thank you for breaking it down.
Thanks, Derek, as always.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all the premium members who are out there buying tickets, proving to the industry that we can and will sell tickets here at Breaking Points. That's what it's all about. As a reminder, premium subscribers only. There's a pre-sale going on for the first week. Lots of tickets are selling, so we deeply appreciate it. If you want availability not only to this pre-sale, but all pre-sales in the future as we book other venues, become a premium subscriber today. We hear from our representatives that we're doing quite well, so let's keep blowing it out
Keep it going,
of the
guys.
water. Let's show Austin and LA, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, all these other cities all over the country that we can and will do it big here at Breaking Point. So thank you all so much. It always means the world when you show up for us in such a way. And we're really looking forward to the show, and we're looking forward to another show tomorrow.
Love you guys. See y'all back here tomorrow. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.